Chat, y'all want a story? Well, you're getting one. So my wife gets off work like 5 o'clock. She gives me a call like 5:01. Now usually when this happens, it's because of something dinner related. Like she'll be like,
"Hey, get the hamburger meat out of the fridge so it starts to warm up a bit, and I'm gonna cook it when I get home."
You know, something like that. It's usually about something beefy. It's usually beef talk. Okay. So she calls me 5:01, and she's like, "Hey, I need to run an errand. I could have done it yesterday, but I didn't, so I'm gonna run it today. Can you handle dinner for you and boy?" And I was like, I can. Now here's the thing though, if I did that though, she wouldn't have food. So I was like, okay, would you like me to do that? Or would you like to pick up something drive-through for all three of us on the way home? And she's like, yeah, and then my son heard it, and he's like, I want the McDonald's. And I was like, dude, boy, stop it. Big people are talking. And she's like, yeah, that's fine. I'll do that. And I was like, okay. So she gets McDonald's. All right. So, usually she gets home at 5:30. She ran her errands. She gets home at like 6. She walks the door at 6. She's got a bag of McDonald's. And she's like, she does this, chat, I quote, "Well, that was a waste of my time," and slams the McDonald's bag on the counter. I'm sorry? Like, I thought we were cool. I'm so confused in this moment. And she's like, what? And I was like, I wouldn't have asked if I had known it was that big a deal. I thought we were good. I thought it was a good, and she's like, what? No, not that, the other thing. And I was like, your errand? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, that was a waste of time? She's like, yeah, I was going to the library to pick up something I had reserved, and they closed at 5, and I got there at 5:30. And I was like, that's why you're mad. And she's like, yeah. And I was like, woman, I thought you were mad about going to pick up food after you offered to. And she's like, what? No. And I was like, yeah, I didn't order a hamburger with a side of shame. And then she laughed so hard, I think she almost had an accident. And I was just like, what? Like, she just comes in, she's like, this was a waste of my time, and practically threw a hamburger and fries at me. I thought I was in trouble. And I'm supposed to read between the lines that she's mad at a library. Like, I get that women and men sometimes can't communicate. I feel like that one's not on me. I feel like that one is not on me. You're the husband, you are in trouble. Always. You got frozen fish. Yeah, I was like, I would have just, microwaved some food for me and boy if I had known I was getting cheeseburger with a side of shame. Like, I didn't realize that was the menu. He even changed clothes for it. Oh, chat, short story for you. Okay. I was like 18 or 19, and my dad took me, like, my dad was going on a business trip. I say trip, it was like a 20-minute drive, 30-minute drive, okay? He was going like downtown. And he takes me and he's like, hey, there's this gal that works there and I've been talking you up. You should ask her out. It's like, what? Like, I was first year college, guys, fresh out of high school. I was like, what? Like, Dad, what are you doing? I think I had been on 1 or 2 dates at this point. I was super shy. I didn't want to ask out someone I'd never met before. And my dad was trying to like hook me up. And this gal was maybe 2 years older than me. She was maybe like 21 and she worked at the place he was going to. So he takes me there and he's like working on fixing their phones or something. And I'm trying to make small talk with this lady. And it feels like there's just we're a world apart, right? Like, even though I'm like 19, she's 21, like she's working in an office and I just graduated high school. It felt like just a world apart. And so we're making small talk. It's super awkward. And then, finally my dad's like, all right, I'm wrapping up. And I was like, okay. And, I had to summon all my willpower. I'm like, so you want to go out sometime? And I very awkwardly asked her out. And she was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, okay. So we made arrangements for some let's say like another day. It doesn't matter. So we make arrangements for another day. And I'm supposed to pick her up there, and we're gonna go on like a lunch date. Now she's my wife. No. So I drive back there, and it was like 20-30 minute drive. I drive back there on the other day, and I go there, and I come in, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I was trying to reach you. I have to cancel. I have to work through lunch." And I just, being myself at a moment of way too comfortable situation, I was like, "Oh no, the carriage awaits." I was using a metaphor. I meant my car. I was just being like rhetorical. And she's like, "You got a carriage?" Because that was like a service you could pay for horses at some guy. You know, and she got really excited. And she's like, "You got a carriage?" And I was like, "What? No, it's a Honda." It's just wow. All right, you know, if she felt like the bad guy before that moment, she didn't after that moment. She felt betrayed and lied to, and I was just being rhetorical. That's it. That's why you got to keep a pumpkin in the truck. Yeah, I guess. Dude, oh my gosh, that one turned out weird too. We ended up actually going on a date later on, and we went on a snowboarding date, chat. It's pretty cool. We went on a snowboarding date. The problem
10 betrayal.
is she was way better than me at snowboarding at that time. And like, I could do the black diamond runs, which are the hardest the harder runs, but I was slow. I had to take my time. She could just tear down these things. And I was just like, Jesus, you know, and I was feeling like I wasn't a man, you know, like I was getting shown up, you know, she was having to wait on me at the end of the run, stuff like that. And we do the whole the whole date, and like we go to get in the car. Oh, this is at the beginning of the day. We go to get in the car at the beginning of the date, and she hops in, and she's like, "Ready?" And I was like, "Oh, I was just waiting on you to buckle up." And she's like, "What are you gonna do if I don't?" What? Why are we picking a fight over this? The date's been going for 2 seconds. What do you mean, what am I gonna do? What? I was so confused. What are you gonna do if I don't? Like, I'm gonna call 911. Like, what? It kind of retained that level of awkwardness through the whole thing, chat. I don't care, just button. But yeah, it didn't get any less awkward than that. You know, my dad had a bunch of weird stories from the military. My favorite one, and this one is a really short story. He was like the radio tower guy. All right, like, you know, like the airplanes would radio and be like, "Hey, we need a heading," and he would just, you know, he would be like, "All right, you need to go, you know, north by east, 54 degrees." You know, whatever. He was the, yeah, thank you. He was like air traffic control. He was like air traffic control. So they had this exercise where they divided like a group of the military guys into 2 groups, and it was basically supposed to be like information warfare. And my dad, to toot his own horn, would say he was really, really good at his job. And so they're doing this little information warfare game, and one of the my dad basically breaks into the communication of the enemy pilots, and one of them's like, "Hey, I need a heading," and he's like, "You need to go 38 degrees south." And the guy's like, "Okay." And my dad forgot about him. Fast forward about 2 hours, and the end of the exercise has occurred, and there's one person missing, Mr. 38 degrees south. So they're like, "Who last talked to this guy?" And my dad's like, "Oh, I think I did." And they're like, "What happened?" And he's like, "Well, he asked for a heading." And they're like, "Well, what did you do?" And he's like, I gave him a heading." And they're like, "What heading?" He's like, "Oh man, I made something up." They're like, "You made something?" He's like, "It was a war game. I was just trying to get him out of the way so we'd win." So they check, and this guy is, again, Navy, chat. This dude is just flying out into the ocean. He is nowhere near the ships. And they managed to find him and like, get a radio signal to him, and they're like, "Turn around now. we are heading toward you. We have got to get you before you run out of fuel. And they had to like take the ship toward him, which was like a waste of $1 billion or something, and turn him around to get him to land back on the carrier before he ran out of fuel and just freaking crashed in the ocean. And it was like, my dad's like, yeah, they were like really mad at me, but they didn't punish me because I did exactly what I was supposed to. So they yelled at him for falling for it. How dare you fall for the enemy's ruse in a war game? They just yelled at this other guy who was flying the plane.